our show, From Days to Years. We're so excited for you to be here. From Days to Years is an open letter from moms to moms. We're going to celebrate our successes and talk about our seemingly failures. Remember, it's not a failure, it's just a life lesson. And we have so many to share with you and so many to learn from you. I have my co-host, Heather.
Hi.
And what are we talking about today, Heather?
Today we are going to talk about mother-in-law sanity. Because we all have mother-in-laws or had a mother-in-law at some point in your life. And so, yeah. And it's never, I mean, and I mean, that sounds so negative, but you know, I mean, sometimes you have a great mother-in-law and sometimes you have different times with your mother-in-law too. There's the pre-grandkids mother-in-law.
Oh my gosh.
And then the after kids mother-in-law. So,
should we start with that? Phases of
mother-in-law.
This is the same. We're getting a shirt by Heather. Phases of mother-in-law. You've heard it here first.
Of mother-in-law.
From Heather.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it until it popped in my head. But yeah, because I had different relationships.
Tell me about when the pre-grandkids. Because I agree, that was definitely different.
Well, it was different for us too because I think unlike a lot of couples, we met and got married and lived in totally different states from my husband's parents. Okay. So we only got together when it was a visit, and it was a planned visit. There was never let's go see your mom for Sunday dinner. It was never that. That never happened. Yeah. It was let's get on a plane and fly to, believe it or not, Tampa, Florida, where I didn't live at the time, and visit your mom. Because we both worked for an airline, so we could just jump on an airplane on a Friday afternoon and go do it. We don't any longer. So, I mean, if there's anybody out there, I'm looking for a job. Still have all my skills too.
But we've never lived around our in-laws.
So you haven't either. So
no.
Okay.
We lived in the South when we first got married. We lived in Texas.
Okay. Oh,
everyone
that's
was in
right.
Michigan.
We were both in Texas. Yeah.
Yep. Michigan, Ohio, and his family was in North Carolina at the time. Oh. And so we were only there for a short amount of time, but no one came to visit us. But they wanted us to come back there.
They always want you to come. Yes.
We're going to talk about that too. So,
because I don't feel like it's always all the children. It's certain children they don't go visit that they expect you to come visit.
That's funny too.
Yeah, it's all clicking.
But yeah, so when we lived in Texas, no one came to visit. And I'm not bad mouthing them or saying that, but no one would come. But they wanted us to come there. I clearly remember Christmas. Like my mother-in-law's thing was she wanted everyone at our house for Christmas, and I understand that's a dream.
As a mom,
that's a mom. That's something you want.
Yeah.
So when my husband and I got first married, we divided up the holidays. So my mom got Thanksgiving and his mother got Christmas.
Okay.
And for like 12 years, we did that. And people thought we were nuts. Yeah. So whether we were in Texas or other states, because we've lived in 3 different states together, married, and we would go for Thanksgiving at one set's house and Christmas at the other. Did you guys do that?
No, because Thanksgiving, as far as I'm concerned, and I don't care what the rest of the family feels like, is my holiday. Sorry, future in-laws, but yeah. And I don't care if they come to me. I'm just not leaving my house on Thanksgiving.
But you're going to give your kids a choice.
I will give it to. I will not have my
feelings. You must
no.
here.
I would never hurt their feelings. I would expect every once, especially if they lived in the area, to occasionally come. But it doesn't even have to be on Thanksgiving Day. If they wanted to come later in the week,
This is going to be a good mother-in-law. Whoever's marrying her kids, that's a good mother-in-law. I just want to say that, okay?
Only because I don't want to put them in, and I say that now, I reserve the right to change my mind. But
this is
right now, I just don't want to put that pressure, and also because I do feel like at Thanksgiving I'm cooking for myself.
Yeah.
I don't care how many other people are there. I'm cooking my favorites. It's the same menu. I cook the exact same menu. Sometimes I change things a little bit. Yeah. Like this year, scalloped potatoes instead of mashed potatoes, but I still do sweet potatoes. Okay. I do a little bit of everything, and it's my food, and I will live off that food for a week.
And I think that's what. So she has traditions, and
but I but I accept that they're my traditions and not other people's traditions.
Putting that on someone else.
No.
And that's what I've had a problem with. Yes. Is that your expectations of what you want were put upon us. So for 12 years, or was it 13 years, we had to go back and forth. And I was fine with it for a while, and then I realized that
it's exhausting.
It was exhausting.
Yeah.
And there wasn't you coming to see us. I remember one year we went 6 times to the state where they were, and they came 0.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like my in-laws. They have means. They're not without means.
Yeah.
It was
their choice.
Their choice. They chose not to.
Yeah. And maybe they were like me. It was their holiday.
But
they did have the expectation though for
6
you.
times in 1 year.
Yeah, no.
And I told my husband when I said, okay, that's it, we're done. I'm not going to another Thanksgiving or Christmas at either one of our family's houses. Yeah. Because I'm tired. We keep going, and we're the ones going, and they hardly come, and then they complain that they had to get on a plane, that they couldn't. My dad. I love my dad. Okay. His thing is, well, my parents lived in the next state, and they could just drive a couple of hours, and they could stay in my house for several days, and then they just drove a couple more hours. But that's not what we're doing here. We've always lived several states away. Yeah.
So it's getting on an airplane and luggage, and those are the busiest times of the year to be on an airplane. Again, worked for an airline, so another reason why I don't like to fly. Yeah, I don't like to fly. It's busy, it's chaotic, it's crazy, and it's not relaxing. Like when I get together with family, I want it to be fun. Yeah. And I don't want to be thinking about, what's the weather like? Especially like up north, like what is the weather like?
Cold.
Is it cold? But is there snow coming through? Is it going to delay flights? Is there going to be ice?
Likely.
And I don't like dealing with. And then once you have kids,
that's a whole other thing. But you gave a good point earlier. Yeah. One of the things you said is that you have these traditions. You would want your family to come, but they don't necessarily have to come on that day.
No, I'd be okay with them. Now, granted, they're getting leftovers because I'm cooking on Thanksgiving Day.
But still, you are allowing them to have flexibility.
Yeah.
And we were not given that flexibility. It was Thanksgiving here and Christmas here. Right. And when I told my husband, I said, I'm tired and I'm done because people aren't reciprocating.
Right, and it's hard when
they were angry. Yeah. Both sets. Yeah. Both sets were angry.
Really?
Oh, honey.
I mean, what if you'd wanted to flip-flop that too, like the 2 holidays? No. Yeah. And see, in Christmas, I feel like is more of I can just go with the flow. But I don't like not. I think for me, sometimes is because we're the ones who don't live, because both my parents have passed, so it's really my husband's parents. Yeah. So sometimes, though, we show up, and there's things that are sprung upon us that we didn't have expectations for.
So wait, let's start this. So you've traveled all day.
Yeah.
You get there, and then there's stuff you have to do. You can't just sit
down
and relax.
Not like that. And I'm going to be honest. Like my husband's stepmom, I call her my stepmother-in-law because I used to have a mother-in-law and a stepmother-in-law, so it was to distinguish.
Two moms at one time.
So now I just kind of refer to her as my mother-in-law. She was actually amazing because we would show up usually because we're flying standby, so sometimes we didn't know when we were getting there. Yeah. But she was amazing. She always had my favorite adult beverage. Oh. Yep. And then she would have appetizers. But she's also, I call her the queen of appetizers. Oh. Like sometimes she gives you so many appetizers, I'm like, we're not really having a main meal now, are we? Oh, yeah. No, we're still having a main meal. But it's Michigan, you go with the flow. But I feel like when we haven't been there, I'm always really sad that we're not there. But then there's the other part of me that's like, oh man, but it's so nice to just be sitting in my own house and doing my thing. Yeah. But we've had times where we've shown up and there's this plan to do some kind of family picture card for the following year, but I didn't know. And so then I'm being told where to go. I'm like, what are we doing? And then I'm confused. And I probably honestly have been drinking a little bit. So, but that's, I hate to say it, they're from Michigan. My family always says, well, they're from Michigan. Of course they're drinking.
Wait a minute, I'm from Michigan. What does that mean? There's only coffee over there.
Well, they talk about the Midwest. Like the Midwest, they like their adult beverages.
We do.
Yeah. Well, and I grew up in the South, and we were Southern Baptists. And so we did not drink.
Really?
Oh, no.
I know a lot of Southern Baptists that drink.
I know. And no. But growing up, you didn't drink. You didn't use wine for cooking.
Interesting.
And I will say, as an awkward kid, I used to love to say, oh, no, I can't dance. I'm Southern Baptist. Sorry. And I'm still not the biggest dancer. And I took years of tap and ballet, but for some reason that didn't count towards dancing. I'm not sure. Again, I was a child, so if there's things that I did wrong, I'm really sorry. But
your mother-in-law, so you have 2 of them.
I had 2 of them at one point.
One's not here anymore.
One's not, no. Okay. Bless her heart, she cancer, so.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It was, it was hard, and she's in a better place.
For me, the hard thing was mostly it's the expectations. It's the unwillingness to do things. Like my mother-in-law, she's alive, so I can't say God rest her soul because she's alive. That would not be appropriate.
Bless her heart.
Bless her heart. They say that in the South.
Say that in the South.
Bless her heart.
And I've never said that before, so that's fun.
She's flexibility would be nice,
Right.
but it's like, this is how she wants things done. So
Right.
now I just say no. I just say
Right.
no.
And it's hard,
I
but you-
don't know. I'm not traveling.
No.
I don't really interact, and maybe I need
Right.
to do a better job with that. Like, I got burnt out
Right.
because we were always the one
Well, and
going.
you've been married 19 years, and you were together
God.
before that too. It wasn't like,
What we met.
so you
and
have
then,
a lot of, like, you've known her almost at least half your life, really, right? At this point, almost.
well, yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
20. I've
It's
known her
kind of
21
scary when
years.
you hit the 20-year mark
Yeah,
in marriage because, and you're in your 40s, so you're like, oh yeah, I've known you most of my adult life.
But so what do women do? Like, for me, earlier on, I was
Yeah.
very accommodating, and when we go, and when she
Right.
wanted to do certain things, and I would go. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? I'm not going anymore, and I'm not dealing with some of the things that she says. Some moms, and this is kind of like when we did the Friends.
Right,
Should we do
Friends, yes.
Like being able to, like the confrontation thing
It's
and
hard,
speaking up for
but
yourself.
you have to, especially, and I'm going to stress this, especially when you have kids.
And that's the second phase.
Because, and I didn't know this, but I remember a woman I knew, I worked with her, she once said, you know, she dreaded the day her daughter didn't want to go to her dad's house. And they had done this every year for Christmas.
Why
And it
didn't
was
you want to go?
just because as you get older, kids, and it really clicked with me, was she said, at some point kids want to open their presents at home, in their own home.
That's true. That's true.
And I get that. And play with their toys and not have to take them or their new, you know, the new technology. And
That makes sense.
I think that's why it is, because last Christmas we were in temporary housing, so it was difficult. So we did try, we drove to Michigan and we loved it. Like, I loved it, had the most wonderful time, and I'm excited they're coming here this year. But it is hard though, because it's not your stuff.
Yep.
And eventually you've got to, like, even though we drove and I have a big SUV, we didn't want all that in our car. So we had to ship it. We had to ship 2 boxes back.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of stuff. And it's just, but so then when we got home, you'd be like, oh, wow, there's these toys I haven't played with. But it was kind of like, oh, yeah.
But it's
But my
hard.
kids had moved on. Like,
Yeah.
they had just moved on. And plus, we were in total chaos in our apartment at that point because
Well,
it
'cause
was
you're
so
building a
tiny.
house.
It was so tiny.
But so for you,
Yeah.
how have you been able to, I'm going to say, put boundaries up or draw lines? Because I think that's kind of what
I
we're
almost
heading
feel like
towards.
it's more of a natural thing because my
Mine
husband.
was unnatural. I had to just do it.
Well, so they were in Michigan and we lived in the Seattle, Washington area. That's a big distance.
So, but even though, so how were you able to do it naturally? Because, you know,
I
certain
think
people are
it was
very
just
demanding and they're
that-
like, this is how I want it.
We, at one point, we had moved into a new house. And everybody had come out for that first Christmas we were in that house, but it was just small. Like, it was really small for all of us to be there. But we made it work. But as my kids got older, we had things that we wanted to do over their break.
Okay.
One of which was we like to go snow tubing. We would try to do that on Christmas Eve. We like to go to, we had, before the NHL moved back to Seattle, we had, I forget what it's called, like a minor, not even a minor league. They were like high school.
Okay.
But like they were moved away from home. There's
So you
a
guys
term.
started adding activities.
We started all these
So
activities.
all of a
that
sudden you were unavailable.
we were unavailable
Okay.
because, and my kids didn't want to give up those activities.
Okay.
So I think it was just we started our own traditions that we didn't want to break up, and it just became that way. We were welcome if anybody wanted to come see us,
Yeah.
but nobody said they did, and we didn't really invite them either. We just became our own little family of 4, and we were very happy doing our things together as a family of 4 for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that's why I'm very content to be at home with my little 4. We're very happy. I call them our little duckies. We're all there. We may not all be in the same room, but we're all very happy being together.
And I think that's wonderful that you can create your own traditions
Yeah.
and you were able to naturally do it.
Right.
Because I didn't have that natural.
Yeah.
I just like, I'm done. Because I felt, again,
Yeah.
that there was expectations and we were put upon it and there was no flexibility
That's
or
really
willingness
hard.
to reciprocate. So I just cut it. And when I did that, and Reggie, not when I did it because it was an agreement, but there was definitely some friction. And you could feel it. But for me, I was like, you know what?
But did
We're
like
just
a
gonna do
weight
it.
come off your shoulders?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. It did. I didn't, because I like eating certain things for Christmas dinner.
Right.
And I don't like eating certain things for Christmas. And my mother-in-law likes to make certain things I don't like to eat. And I don't like the way that she cooks. I never have. So for 12 years, going to someone's house for Christmas dinner and eating what she wanted and doing the things that she wanted
Yep.
to do, I didn't want to do any of that stuff.
Yep.
I'm like, I felt that I sacrificed for 12 years and I was done.
You're done. You wanted your own traditions.
I wanted my own traditions.
At some time, it's time to do that. Honestly, I mean, and it's hard because I think there are people out there who've never done it, and then at some point they have to do it, and it's hard to start. I think.
But you just have to
You just have to do it.
Whether you just cut it like I did or you make a natural decision, you should just do it. Yeah. So now, like communication, like I don't really even pick up the phone and call her anymore. Not that I was really doing that anyway. And I don't discourage my husband or our daughter not to do that. Like if she wants to FaceTime her grandma, we can. Yeah. And we encouraged her to do that. And even over like last year when we did the whole COVID schooling, because I have an autoimmune disease, so we couldn't go into public that much. I needed to be careful of my health. Right. So I asked her grandparents to call her once a week or a couple times a week and FaceTime her and give her some information on Black history because we are actually African American. Yeah. Because they live in a
great idea.
So they could, that way they could interact with her or whatever they wanted to do. Yeah. So that way she could keep some kind of communication, even though I wasn't. Right. I didn't want to stifle that from her.
Yeah. You're still trying to encourage that relationship, that bond between her and her grandparents.
I just didn't want that because I felt it was. And the other thing, my thing was. Information, the way you parent your kids. Right. The way you parented my husband back in the 19 yada yadas versus what we're doing in the 2000 yada yadas is completely different.
Very different. It is very different, yes.
So you can't tell me how I should parent my kid, and if you do, we're going to have a discussion.
Right.
I don't yell, I don't curse, I don't talk down to her. Yeah. But you're not going to tell me how to parent my kid. You don't even really know my kid, and it's a different time period.
It's a very different time. I feel like sometimes that's the hard part too. And I don't feel that from my in-laws, but I have seen that where they're never around and then they want to parent. and I feel like that's a totally different experience too versus grandparents who maybe live 20 minutes away and they're there all the time and they're watching your child and picking them up or just showing up to a sporting event. Yeah. They have different relationships. Yeah. And so I always say, I don't know what relationship I'm going to have with my children. I fully expect my daughter to, when she finishes high school, to get on an airplane and fly back to Seattle. And I don't know if she'll ever come back.
But she misses it a lot.
She misses it a lot, and she misses the weather, and that's where she wants to go to school. And that's fine. You know what? I'll get on an airplane and go see her.
But that's the thing.
But that's our relationship.
You're
too.
Flexible.
We have a very different relationship than most mother and daughters. She needs her space, and I try to respect that to a certain point. Just like I know I need my space. Yeah. I've never been that parent who wants her kids hanging on her. Like I go, oh my God, everybody's touching me. Like I love you to death, but I need.
But that's the other thing.
I'm being pressured. No, I don't know the right word for that. But whereas I do fully expect my son to live 4 or 5 doors down from me. Okay. And I'm totally okay with that. But I have different relationships with both my children.
But you recognize that.
I recognize that.
The needs that they have, the needs that you have.
They're very different.
Again,
children.
You did not put upon what you wanted.
No.
And I think that mother-in-laws, sometimes, not all, like I said, I don't have a relationship with mine. We say hi, I'm polite to her, I'm cordial. She's definitely said some things that are off-putting. And at one point, I did tell her some things. And she sent a text message, and so Izzy, that's our daughter's nickname. She has a birthday party every year. Yeah. She's our only kid. We had 11 years to have this kid. Yep. So I give her a birthday party every year. Whether it's small or large, we have a birthday party. Right. And I've always invited everyone. Right. Our child is 8 years old this year. She has never come to one of her birthday parties. Wow. Not one. And we stopped doing Christmases at their home. It wasn't a year after Izzy was born. It was like maybe a couple years after.
Right, so there was time.
So there was time. And again, they have means. They can travel. They have chosen not to. Right. And to me, that was very telling.
Right. Right. No, I totally get that. That's really, especially if you're not going to see each other at Christmas, then come. Because she has almost like a summer birthday, like a middle of the year.
Birthday.
That would be a great time to break it up. Oh, we didn't see you at Christmas, so we're going to come at summer.
Yeah. So there's always an excuse. Yeah. But you can go to other grandkids. Right.
Because her birthday happens, I hate to say it, the same day every year.
It does happen every year.
365, sometimes 366 days a year.
I mean, they send a gift, and that's nice, but you've never come. But there was an expectation for me to come to Christmas. Like, if I said, we're coming to Christmas, great, you're coming. And it would still be her program, her way. Right. But you can't come to your grandkids' birthday.
Right, no, because in fact, I can't wait for my children to have children so I can be the... Sorry, future children, older children of mine. Your kids will be getting all the loud toys. with extra batteries.
With extra, well, you have the battery like thing that you buy that has like 50 batteries.
Oh yeah,
in
no,
it.
that's what's
From
coming.
like a big box store, you put it right in there.
Yep.
But yeah, to me,
Yep.
it's like the expectations of mother.
Because I love those toys, but
they're fun.
they're
To
fun,
get.
and I can see my daughter not loving them.
So the hardest thing is with the expectations.
Yeah.
Definitely the generational gap.
There's a generational gap, and
That
I
can
fully
be
expect
hard.
that. I mean, I have these expectations now
Yeah.
of not having expectations, but I'm sure that might change in 20 years.
It might, but I think also being aware of where
Right.
you are with your
Right.
mother-in-law and being aware where
Yeah.
you are with your children might help.
I think that
your
does.
Future.
I do think there's
kids'
that too,
spouses.
because I feel like too, my mother-in-law was, she was a single mom who
The one that's
worked.
deceased.
The one that's deceased. She worked, and so she didn't have a lot of her own time. And so I think sometimes though, when she was trying to find she had a lot of passions. Like a lot of things she wanted to learn how to do, learn to play the piano, learn to ski, but her son kind of got pushed off to the side, or he got sent to his grandparents' house, her in-laws, her ex-in-laws, almost every single summer.
Wow.
And while I'm not against that, I think later on she didn't understand why she didn't have such a close relationship with her son. Like, I think in her head she was doing a good thing by sending him, whereas in his head he was like, oh great, I'm going to my grandparents again, who I do love, but I'm surrounded by 60, 70, and 80-year-old people all summer long. There were no other kids his age.
Wow.
So he was just off on his own a lot, unless they signed him up for a summer camp.
That's
But it was at
hard.
it was at camps with kids who lived there, and so
Yeah.
he didn't even know any of them.
That would be hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think for her, that was just this, she felt like she was doing this great thing for him, whereas he was like, well, I would have rather just stayed home with you and been with you for the summer.
Wow.
So, I mean, there was those things, those, like you said, expectations. They just didn't understand that he didn't have the same expectations or the same, what is the word, result of the expectation. So, that makes me want to listen to my kids just a little bit more. Try to listen when they say they're okay, but you don't think that they're okay.
And I think the listening thing is a big thing. 'Cause that's the other.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I found with both my mom and my mother-in-law, is in phases. Before we had the child with my mother, it was a better relationship.
Yeah.
After we had it, not so much.
Oh,
And I had it,
interesting.
my child. She's not an it. My mother-in-law, it's been consistently not listening the whole time.
The same time.
Just not listening the whole
Yeah.
time. So I can clearly remember we used to do these trips every year where the entire, his side of the family, his two brothers, their wives, their kids, us, his parents, we'd have to go to a certain city, wherever it was, and
Yep.
we'd do like a family trip.
Yep.
Every
Yes.
single summer, and do Christmases,
single
and
summer.
every summer, and Christmases.
Not every
with
couple of
them.
years.
Not
Wow, that's a lot.
Every summer.
That's a lot.
And then Christmases with them, and then
Yeah.
anything else that she would come up with, reunions or whatever.
Right.
And there was one reunion where we were in one of those condos, and they were on one half, and we were on another half, and there the kitchen's in the middle. And we were doing this talk. And this is before all the family was in. We were in the living room talking about something. And she lied, blatantly lied about something. And it was so ridiculous. And she was trying to prove a point, but she was lying to prove the point. And I know the background information. And
Right, so you knew.
I knew that it was a freaking lie.
Yeah.
And I bit my tongue, but I texted my sister-in-laws and said, this is the background information, and this is what she didn't say, and this is wrong.
Right.
And I told my husband, and he's like, okay. He did, because he loves his mom, which he should. He should
Right,
love
yeah,
his mom.
yeah,
He should love his mom.
yeah.
But he doesn't see her for who she is, and I can clearly see her for who she is.
Yeah.
And so I went and talked to her on the side, because I don't believe in blasting people in front of a crowd. I believe in talking to someone on the side and telling them. Yeah,
You're a better person than me.
I don't know if I'm better, but that's just
I would
one
have been
thing
able
do.
to control my.
Honey. So she
I
was,
would lie. Yeah, I probably would.
I was sitting like this.
I would have had an adult beverage in my hand, afraid of spilling it.
So she was cooking breakfast the next day, and I went and I said, I want to talk to you about this.
Yeah.
She's like, I can't, I'm busy. You've made eggs and toast before.
It's not hard.
It's not hard.
That's
and
not
you've been
hard.
doing it for X number of years.
Yeah, you can
so
do it.
you could have a conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't even bother.
Good for you. Like, good for you. Because seriously, it's.
but it's bothering me because it was such a foundational
Right.
moment. And,
Yeah.
and she lied to the whole family and didn't care just to get her way.
Right.
And she did that before in a text message. And I called her out in the text message and I told my husband. And
Yeah.
I have never seen him so sad
Yeah.
in my life. And so when I did that in a text message, my sister-in-laws were on it. And I vowed from that day I would never correct her again
Right.
where other people would be around. And it was only on a text message. It wasn't anything
Right.
else. But his face, it fell.
Oh.
And I never want him to feel like that again. So
Right.
I will go back to...
It's very hard. I know. Because you want to stand up for yourself, but then when you do, you put your spouse in this difficult position
Yeah.
because they don't know who to choose. Even though they maybe know that their parent was wrong, you still think your parents are, I mean, you want your kids to think that, you are perfect and don't make mistakes. And
I don't know. I'm different than that. Like, I tell my kid, like, I
oh,
made a
I
mistake.
know. Like, my kids know that.
My mother-in-law, she's more of like, this is... And she never apologizes.
Right.
Like, lady, you're wrong about so many things. And I always apologize to my kid. I apologize to my husband too.
Yeah.
Because I do make mistakes and I am human and I
Right.
want them to know
Right,
that I'm sorry. I snapped at you the other day, or
Right,
I said this and that wasn't quite what I should have said.
I do try really hard to go back and say, I'm really sorry. I was having a moment, and next time feel free to say, Mom, stop and listen. Like, and it's hard for kids to say that too. So
Oh, we're getting some cues that we need to stop.
stop.
There's so much more I want to say.
But we also have a forum, and we would love to hear what you have to say. About mother-in-laws and keeping your sanity. And also maybe if you have some great relationships with your mother-in-laws, we want to hear about that too, because that's something that isn't discussed a lot. So please, on our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, we're everywhere, and our website,
Which is from daystoyears.com. We'd love to hear what you have to say, and make sure you subscribe. Click on one of the social links. Make sure you subscribe to what we're saying, what we're doing.
Yeah.
To our
Let us
sites.
know. Let us know if we're wrong too. I mean, we can take it.
Yeah, I'm tough.
We're tough.
We have mother-in-laws.
Yeah. We have each other. There's 4 of us here in this room. We have each other. We'll survive.
So thanks again for tuning in to Trying to Mother-in-Law with Sanity. See you next time.
Bye.